Well, let's talk about some America. So that's where we went there, and now we're just doing a hard segue right to this story from CNBC. Wholesale price measure rose 9.6% in November from a year ago, the fastest pace on record. The pace was even faster than the estimate, 9.2. The core producer price index increased at a 6.9% pace, a bit slower than estimates, but still the fastest ever in records dating to August 2014. Of course, we also have news, I think they bring this up here, that for the consumer price index as well, it's also massively up. So basically, long story short, inflation is through the roof. The M1 money supply. So this is what I did on my main channel today. I pulled up the M1 money supply from March of 1986 when I was born until today. From the month of my birth until the 2008 crisis, the money supply just narrowly doubled from 800 billion to 1.6 trillion. From that point forward, we get to the pandemic year, where the money supply, due to how they track the money, the savings accounts, they said now savings are effectively checking, the money supply increased, I think, like five times, from something like 2 trillion to like 16 trillion. That's not 2 times, that's like 8 times. But I could be wrong. I'm sorry, 5 times. And I think it might have been 3. But since then, since May of 2020, we have added, I think, something like $4 or $5 trillion to the money supply. And now the Democrats are proposing raising the debt ceiling another 2.5 trillion. Joe Biden puts out that video where he's like, we pay our debts in America. That's why I'm raising the debt ceiling. And it's like, that's not paying your debts. That's taking out a credit card to pay off loans. Like, that doesn't work. Eventually, the debts come due and you default. So I'll tell you this, very simply put, what we are seeing now with this wholesale price increase, it's like watching the initial tsunami start coming in. The water starts pouring over the seawall. The pandemic was when the water line receded and all the water went away and we were like, where'd the water go? Now all that water is rushing back faster and higher than ever. And we're seeing these signs. I have a feeling that next year is going to be apocalyptically bad. And I wonder if we're entering like Weimar Germany era. Like back in the day in the Weimar era, they were shoveling bills like in the gutter. It was so worthless, like Venezuela levels.
Yeah, in the fiat currency era, in college, they tell you about Keynesianism, about modern monetary theory, all this nonsense to kind of cloud your brain. But it's as simple as what Tim discussed a second ago, is that if you print a lot of money, the money's going to be worth less. If you print trillions of dollars, there's trillions of more dollars in circulation, and that means your purchasing power is drastically reduced. That CPI index is actually based on a basket of goods that isn't really like there's other stuff in there that can make it way higher. And if you were to calculate it from the 80s consumer price index, it would be almost 20% at this point inflation. So that's the kind of numbers that we're talking about. And the idea that like, this is America, so we're never going to see hyperinflation, that's kind of a dangerous hedge to make, especially because we've only been on fiat currency for 50 years. So, it's already these hyperinflation incidents has happened, I think, in 60 countries now since then. So the idea that it can't happen in America is a little foolish. And you even have Jack Dorsey of Twitter openly mocking the idea that it's transitory.
Yeah. Yep. Jack Dorsey tweets in quotes, transitory.
Yeah.
Take a look at this from the M1 money supply. So a lot of people like to point out that this major spike is a change in reporting, and we shouldn't really talk about it, which is BS. It used to be that you could only transfer out of your savings account 6 times to your checking account, which meant savings were meant to be saved. Well, because of the pandemic, they said spend away, spend whatever you want. So the money supply immediately exploded. Look at this. From 4.7 trillion up to 16.2 trillion. However, let's ignore that metric and let's talk about the current rate of growth in the United States. From May of 2020, we were at 16.2 trillion to today, we're at 20 trillion in October. Look how much that's grown over nearly just about $4 trillion in close to like a year and a half. Now take a look at when the month I was born, March 1986, 633 billion. How long did it take for that to double?
Really long.
It was, let's see where we go. Well, we're trying, but it's going down, it's going up, it's going down. And there we go. 2003, from 1986, from 2003, to go up $600 billion. Now we're up trillions of dollars already in the span of a year and a half.